basically a success story where you just have one plant left, and just, you're thinking what to do, and you don't want to wait because it may die before it even flowers or fruits. And so Sue and Dave liked that whole story and really photographed it, documented it, and put it in their book.
I mean, I think for me, it's an example of how tenuous so many of these plants, the situation that they're in, also the Kanaloa, like rediscovering something that was thought to be extinct, like a living fossil. It was like so special to be able to photograph that. And I wasn't on the C staff. This was after, but I listened to Kenny tell the story, and I write about the story because that was moving for me as well as this. And that's why, because you were sitting there thinking about what to do.
Yeah.
In this situation, where you're actually dealing with, a species that is on the brink of extinction. It's I hadn't experienced a parallel to that on the mainland. I'd worked with a lot of botanists and biologists who'd worked with endangered species, and many of them with not a lot of individuals left, but nothing comparable to Hawaii, where so many species were on the brink of extinction, and with one or two or a handful or less individuals in the wild, or maybe none in the wild. And that was really the motivation, I think, for David and I, once we came here and learned really what the situation was here, in terms of being sort of the epicenter of extinction, but at the same time, just this proliferation of exuberant biodiversity that happened because of the geologic history and situation of the Hawaiian archipelago. I felt like I was sort of eavesdropping on, the miracle of creation at its best, but also the devastation of its loss. And I thought most people don't have any idea about this. So we just wanted to really, without hesitation, turn our eyes toward Hawaii and do enough. You could do it, I could be still doing this, but enough so that it could communicate something of the diversity and the urgency and the really breakthrough conservation that was being done here. A lot of people would say to me, isn't this really depressing, working with all these plants and animals that are, hanging on by a thread? And I said, it's sobering, but it's not really depressing, because I'm working with biologists and field botanists, field biologists, and conservationists that are doing just absolutely breakthrough research and are so passionate about preserving what can be preserved. So in a way, it's really inspiring, which is true. And when I learned that 25% of the species on the endangered species list were from Hawaii, and yet it's just such a small fraction of the land area, I thought, well, something's up here. And then 90% of those endangered species are plants, so I knew plants would figure largely. So to work with Steve and Ken was absolutely what had to happen, but I wasn't sure if it could happen. I remember approaching you at a dinner party, actually on Maui, and asking if you'd be interested in working with us on it, and you just really guided the field work. Within a week or two, we had like a plan, and then it was sort of like, and then NTBG jumped in and not only provided Steve and Ken's time, which you can't buy, that's better than gold, right? But also helicopter funding, for the majority of the project. So it was, then I knew we were, off and running. We could really pull this off. And so,
if I could interject, just
yes,
not
please.
to interrupt, but
Yeah.
With that helicopter funding and being able to go to the plants that NTBG had been monitoring through its biologists, we had it's like a trap line. We would go to these every year and check them out, or twice or three times a year. But having the support of Susan with funding to go to these sites, it wasn't just going to the plant and photographing. Oftentimes we would get there, and then David and Susan would start to set up, and then Steve and I would have time to wander off. And on many occasions we were able to locate unusual plants, because we were in such remote areas, unusual plants that hadn't been seen or were only known from a few individuals. For example, when we got flown in the back of Kauai Canyon, we went into the back, maybe we were working with Electrion or one of those plants inside there. I was able to break away and came upon Melicope digneri, a relative of, it's in the Rutaceae or orange family, a relative of Mokihana, which is the lei of Kauai. and only one little plant was known, or a few plants were known from Hanakoa. And then here was a whole other little grouping of them.
And there
I
it is,
remember
right
that.
there, it's in the book.
Yeah, I remember
This is
that.
not
Okay,
Vegana.
I love that, yeah.
It's so important because the having an isolated population would have unique genes within it, and so it gave that species yet another better chance to. But the point is that it wasn't just going in there and just focusing on photographing. We were able to get multiple things done. We were multitasking.
And that was interesting for us too, because I